Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast, where we answer your sales distress calls. I'm Liz Hyman, and each week I'm joined by your crew of seasoned sales experts who have navigated these waters and come out victorious. So if you're ready to turn your sales distress into sales success, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast. I'm Liz Hyman, and I am here with your Sales SOS podcast crew, Mike Simmons, Daryl Prell, and Renee Bigelow. And today we are talking about AI. And we've had 2 episodes talking about AI. One about what sales reps can be doing to up their game, and one about what sales managers can be doing, or what tools will make their lives easier. And this episode, we're going to talk about our customers. How are our customers using AI in their buying process, and how have their expectations changed as they've gotten more and more used to using AI? I want to just start off for a second and share a couple of thoughts that which are this. In an earlier episode, I gave an example of getting on the phone with somebody who asked for my time. And when we got on the phone, or we got on the chat, he had not even looked me up. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know what I did. It was rather embarrassing for him by the time I was done letting him know that wasn't okay, and he was wasting my time. But we have been saying, even before sales reps were using AI, we've been saying that customers expect a more tailored journey. They expect a journey that matches their buying process. They expect to engage with our website and our tools in a way that lets them know that the company they're buying from understands them. So, and Renee, you could talk more about this, but that expectation was already set. And what I will say, I think, is that AI raised the bar. And in the last episode, Mike said, in no uncertain terms, if you are not prepared for your meeting, that is unacceptable. And it's always been unacceptable. But now we have so much more information at our fingertips. We should be better prepared. And in fact, our customers expect us to be better prepared. So I think that's the first thing before we go any further, is understanding that our customers, our prospects, their expectations have changed. And we have to show up in a way that looks like and feels like we have prepared. So I'm going to start there, and I'm going to throw it out there. Renee, you want to start us out?
This one, I'm so super passionate on this one, and in particular for this year, right? Like the past 2 or 3 years, I think that AI, the big focus has been, how can we be more productive, right? We're all talking about how we can be more productive and efficient and whatever else, right? Like, how can we do our jobs better? What can it do for me, right? Well, we've gotten a few billion people used to using AI and doing better with it. And they were doing it for their job or doing it for writing a speech or whatever else. They've gotten used to using AI, and they've kind of crossed the chasm for a lot of uses, right? So now we have consumer behavior shifting. And I don't think that this is really talked about enough right now, because it's in the early stages. It is absolutely breaking the top of the funnel for a lot of people, right? Especially if you were depending on organic search, and there are changes now, and you had a very clear inbound process where people came to you through organic search, clicked to your website. Once you got them on their website, they converted. Now we're in a much bigger zero-click environment, and they are coming through, right? That does not mean they do not know more about your ad, about your...
Wait. Renee, you have to stop. A zero-click environment.
Okay, so that means I am getting information about your brand, but I am not clicking to your website, filling out a form, saying contact us, getting handed over to someone in sales who can see every little page that I've clicked on and then says, let's talk, right? Instead, I'm doing this whole journey going down on my own with the assistance of AI. It means I never have to go to your website, right? So that changes something hugely. I think everybody has been focused on that top of the funnel change, but they haven't noticed that consumers are quietly carrying AI into spaces with them. And I'm going to give you an example of my own that I think surprised even me. And I try to eat my own dog food and figure out where consumers are going and try to push it so that I'm doing the new behavior that I think will emerge. I expected when I went to buy a new car to use it to help me narrow down the model of car, right? But I got far more value out of AI once I stepped on the lot than to get me to the lot. Because for decades, we have relied on putting information about our companies out there, and it's been very implicit and had a lot of gaps. What was the one thing that we used to bridge that? Sales. There was a human who could bridge those gaps for you. The human came in and explained, answered the questions, tied everything up in a neat bow, right? All of those things. If I keep going and don't talk to the human, if I get AI to help me through more of it, you have to be prepared to bridge in different ways, right? And so I show up to the dealer lot. I have done my research on the different things where I can't quite figure out that, and I'll point this to you, Honda, if you're listening. Honda did a horrible job in telling me the different trim options of the like 5 or 6 versions of the car that I was looking at, right? The salesperson gave me the wrong information. I literally left the lot and went to go look at my second, third, and fourth sources. I really wanted the Honda and felt after talking to the salesperson that I wasn't going to be able to get what I wanted. AI sat down with me and went through it and said, no. This trim level has exactly what you want. I go back to the dealership. The salesperson says, we don't have that. And I'm like, hold on. I pulled out my camera. I start showing the car, everything in the car. But AI tells the salesperson and me, because I put it on speaker, the AI tells us both that it is in the next trim level and tells them to go find the next trim level. Right? So it's now doing his job of selling this for me. So I think, okay, AI helped me really figure it out. I would have walked away, got in a car I didn't want because I thought the one I wanted didn't exist. I thought, great, I've taken it through the process. Guess what? I go in when Honda does a financing deal or whatever to go buy the car, right? And I get in there and the dealership that I go to talk to says they want to add the above market adjustment rate or whatever above sticker price. And I was like, this is not at the other dealerships, like I pull AI out and it starts negotiating for me with the dealer. And it uses data that the dealer couldn't refute. Right? They started to, but then I could pull it up in the other places. I even then stopped, called the other dealership and asked, are they adding a market adjustment rate? Right? Was literally in the negotiation with me. Then I get to finance and I go to buy the warranty because I wanted the warranty and they wanted to sell me a warranty that wasn't Honda's. Pulled AI right back out and said, do I have to buy this other warranty or can I tell them I only want to buy Honda? And it said, oh, you can absolutely tell them you want to buy Honda. But it gives me all the details about Honda. So I said to him, AI says this, right? They were thoroughly unprepared for AI to be in the buyer journey with me. Like, first of all, they were thoroughly unprepared to be the bridge and answer things correctly. But we all know every brand has salespeople that haven't done that bridge very well, right? From the gap in the data to where we want it to be, right? We know that exists. So the thing that really stood out to me was not that this was so helpful, that did stand out to me personally, but that it threw the salespeople for a complete loop that I was bringing AI into this, right? So this idea of how far will people take it all the way through, right? So I think that's a big thing to get used to, the shift in consumer behavior that you may be negotiating with a bot, right? You may be selling to a bot. The bot might actually call. I have customers who are starting to get phone calls from AI agents, like to book things, right? To set appointments, to do whatever. And some of them treated them like spam calls in the beginning. Well, that AI agent's just going to go down the street to the next place. The agent's job is to finish it. So I just kind of wanted to set the stage for how much consumer behavior is.
Okay, before you go anywhere, we need to hear the rest of the story. How did the dealership react as this was going on?
Oh, they didn't like it at all. I mean, they were very negative, right? That's what I mean by they were thoroughly unprepared for it. So like I had such a bad experience at the dealership where he told me that the car didn't have the right trim model. I went to the other dealership, but then at the other dealership, they started with the negotiating things, and like they were really not pleased at the sale that they had because they were mad, and like it became confrontational when it really didn't need to be, right? So you just need to be very prepared that your consumers are going to come in far more educated than they were. And I think part of why they were taken aback is they would have seen me come in as a lead in the past. And so they would have like seen some information, known where I was. They would have adjusted their script. You know, like she's come to the lot before. We already have her name. Like I came in more educated than they expected and they had no data about it. That's that 0-click thing. And again, that's just one example, but we've all gone through buying a car. So we all understand how stressful that situation is.
Please go back and listen to that and then play that for your teams, no matter how you interact with customers. I don't care if you are at a grocery store or you're on a car lot or you're selling enterprise software into whatever. Go back and listen to it and start to think about how you could recreate the same experience that Renee did and how uncomfortable people on your team would be. And then ask yourself the question, why are we uncomfortable? And just let that sit as a team. Like, why are we uncomfortable? And actually then follow that up with what can we do to do better? How do we create a more amazing experience? And how can we take advantage of that kind of, and just get cut to the chase? Like, ask the question, okay, so Renee, given everything that you're working on through this and you want the car, we want to sell you the car. What do we need to do to bring us all together and figure that out and see how much faster you can do it? That's why I hate buying cars. But I have a brother who loves going through that process because he likes negotiate. I'd rather spend an extra $2,000 if it's going to save me 4 hours. Like, I just don't want that pain in the ass because my time is worth more than that. But
I was just going to say, this took 15 minutes.
See, that is beautiful. Like, I love this. Now my car buying experience is changing as a result of Renee. So Renee, thank you.
I just didn't sit down. I just held the phone up. It was like,
I love it.
I love it. Love it. Okay. So I'm hearing a couple of things as Renee is telling this story, which is an amazing story. One is I do think people are leaning into AI earlier and using it further along the process. So now instead of, looking for an article or searching it through Google, I go to AI and say, what are 4 programs that will do this? What one program will let me do this? I want to build a new website and I want to have 2 different blogs. What tool will allow me to have 2 blogs? And it will answer those questions. So here's what I hear, though, as I'm listening and thinking about this, is that means that mediocre website that you had that doesn't have all of the most updated information and is missing critical pieces because you figured your salesperson would deal with it is not adequate. You now need to make sure that in case they use their AI bot or tool or agent as the one giving them the information, that somewhere that it is getting the right information.
100%, Liz. I will tell you, when I do this kind of audit, and I will say because Google added AI search called AI mode to search, it's a big crossing the chasm moment. People who weren't going to ChatGPT to do this, it's nice and cozy in their Google bar that they've come to know and love, right? They don't have to do something new. It's coming to them in the same platform that they've done before. So when I do this with customers now, because we need to find these content gaps, we need to find the places where we were relying on a human to bridge, right? And when I do that, I will tell you 95% of the time, when there is not an answer, AI will introduce your competitor, even if you are all the way down to negotiating. Where you used to have them do a search, click, go to your website, educate themselves with everything on your website, talk to a person. They're not on your website, right? They're in another tool with an assistant who can help. And when it can't find the information that it wants, it'll say, well, I can't find it here. Honda didn't say this, but Subaru says they have this feature. right? It will literally say, if that feature is really important to you, Subaru says they have it. Volvo says they have this one. Toyota has this, right? All the way down the funnel, it could reintroduce your competitor back in. So you really do have to find those gaps in content, and your sales team is the key to finding them. I go and speak with the sales department, and I'm like, what are the questions you always have to answer that your website doesn't cover, right? Like, obviously, marketing didn't know this, or marketing would have put it out there. They're not trying to put a crappy website out there, right? So you go into your sales teams and you start getting that information and getting the bridge to help you get it more explicit.
Any other thoughts you guys? Gerald, do you want to say something?
I mean, I want to say a lot, but I'll keep it short. I mean, you can't help but go from how is the customer buying, and Renee's done a wonderful job of just really demonstrating how it's changed, to the embedded marketing. So you get found by the the actual AI engines, and you're part of the conversation because, like Renee just said, they'll introduce the competition into your cycle, but they'll introduce you into another person's cycle if the content's there. So it's kind of like marketing gets a second life, right? But now the content that we create is much more. We're able to be a little more wiser about it, as opposed to just looking at SEO and SEM and analyzing search terms. We can actually use AI to customize that, which is fantastic. What I will say is this: customers now, maybe historically what they would have done to short list is they would have gone to maybe G2, or they might have gone to an industry analyst, like maybe a Gartner, or they would have done word of mouth, talk to their buddies, their peers. Who are you using? And you saw the same brands get introduced over and over and over again. And I'm old enough now, Mike has mentioned that on a previous podcast, God bless you, brother, that I have seen so many times where a word of mouth referral became an easy purchase because it got rid of the risk. However, that purchase then goes south because it was a poor fit. They did zero due diligence just because it was the right brand. So what's happening now is AI is actually allowing the smaller, more nimble, more exciting, more innovative companies to compete with the established brand. So if you're an established brand, it's going to be harder for you to leverage that like before, because customers are going to do exactly that. They're going to say, this is my problem. What solutions do exactly this? And they'll be more researched, more knowledgeable before they ever talk to you, just like Renee was buying the car, which means marketing's got to be better, sales has got to be better, and you got to anticipate that. The second part is they can monitor the forums and social media for you to find new and innovative applications and tools that are coming up. So customers now are actually getting on bandwagons faster of that next great tool that might have killed an upstart because they didn't have enough cash to get, to do a big enough, SEM buy or what have you. So it's changed. It's really changed. Hopefully customers will run with that because it's an opportunity for them. They're killing their risks. They're getting the right match. They're going in informed. They can negotiate better. Their sales cycle will be faster. They'll anticipate the obstacles to deployment. All of this is now bonus for them. And all I can say is if you're not doing this as a customer, you're missing a huge opportunity because you're just putting yourself, you're exposing yourself to unnecessary risk and potential failure that you can so easily avoid now.
Daryl, I'll add one thought. I'll add one thought to what you just said about customers jumping on the bandwagon sooner, because I'm a geek, and I'll admit that I'm a geek when it comes to this and understanding shifting consumer behavior. In this spring, Anthropic released what goes on in AI is a black box to all of us, right? We have things like Google Trends, and we have our Search Console or Google Analytics. We have a lot of tools in the traditional web version of the past 2 decades where we could get some ideas and some leading indicators for things and kind of build some customer journeys around. What goes on in AI is a black box because it's all private information that isn't generated out. Anthropic has created an anonymized data collection system called Clio, and they have started releasing some data out of how people use AI. And they did one on the workplace, how people are using AI on the workplace. And I looked at it and said, whoa, I work with B2B. I see buying behavior. I see customer journey behavior in this data, right? So I'm not really worried about like what job was doing the skill. I want to know what these skills are. So they released like 500,000 tasks that people were using AI for. And I did a research project on it and found that the number one, I mapped it to the buying stages, right? And the number one stage wasn't down the funnel with like solution awareness, right? And it wasn't in consideration, and it wasn't in negotiation, any of those. It was up in problem awareness. It is helping customers figure out what their problems really are. And if that is a boon for all of us, if AI is helping customers understand their problems better, are you going to use it to help you figure out what your problem is and then go, okay, no thanks, I'll go find a solution on my own. No, you're going to keep going, right? So if it starts really early, it could speed up the velocity of sales cycles fantastically, right? Like it really has a lot of that potential. If we think about the fact that our customers are getting better educated on their problem awareness, like I don't have a label for this. Before, to search, I had to know what I was looking for to get to it. Now it will help me figure out what I'm looking for, right? So I'd say that to say that that is another trend that we can be looking for in this consumer shifting behavior. They've already have a better understanding of their problems. And that's a way we can adjust how we sell.
What jumps out at me is how it's gone a 180. You know, in sales, we used to say, "Hi, Sally. My name's Daryl. I'm with company ABC." People who invest in us are typically these type of individuals in this industry with these pain points. Is that something that resonates with you? And they would say, well, yes, it does. We have the same problem, and starts the journey. Whereas now it's a flip. It's the prospect saying, they're reaching out to the rep and saying, maybe way down to the funnel. And then they're saying, I'm in this industry. These are my issues. I know I'm not alone. I know that the following solutions work for me based on the following criteria, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like very specific, not broad. And I just need to confirm a few things with you, and how can we move forward? Like it's a 180 now.
Liz, you talk about this a lot, about matching to where your customer is and not taking them backwards, right? You probably have some thoughts about that.
Yeah, well, so it's interesting because Gartner's been saying for a long time that your customer is 70% of the way down their sales process when they interact with you. And I don't think that was 100% true before. I think that
Agreed.
They, depending upon where you reach them in their buying decision, their buying process, they're that far down. But they have done all of the research, come to your website, and filled out a form that says, I'm ready for a conversation. They're probably 70% of the way down your sales process. But I think that now what we're describing is somebody being 90% of their way down, right? By the time I talk to you, I am ready to make a decision. I am ready to say, I want this. The problem is going to come now where if they believe AI 100% and the AI hasn't given them accurate information, we are now going to have to convince them that the AI information they have is not accurate. And then we do have to take them backwards, but it's going to be harder than ever to move people back down that buying process to think about the other options or other ways to think about it. So, but I still say, like, if you're the first one to have a conversation about them while they are still formulating, you're still in a better place than if you are waiting and hoping that they're going to take their journey. And
Liz, I just add on to what you just said. I believe 100% that you're right. It's by the time they raise their hand to be sold to, right, that they've gone down that far. I regularly see when I get into a customer's database that somebody that they think is a new lead has been in their CRM for 18 months, maybe 2 years. They've been circling around educating themselves, and we've done some sort of lead scoring. They haven't like tipped over based on this fuzzy intent data, right? Everything else. So this is where marketing. So I think the whole theme of everything I'm saying is marketing and sales are getting tighter and tighter as the consumer gets more information, right? You like the ability to not be aligned in marketing and sales is just melting in front of us. We've seen it's been a problem for the past 2 decades, but it's going to become way bigger. So this idea of knowing when people enter, marketing getting to them faster if they aren't ready to talk, if they're going to be later, making sure marketing is doing some of that talking and bridging for you in that 18 months that they're sitting in your sandbox, right?
Yeah. So now our articles, our interactions, our spec sheets, all of that stuff that's out there is going to have to do a better job of predicting what questions they're going to be asking as they're going through this journey with AI.
So
Mike, did you have something? Oh, go ahead.
funny story, and I'll keep this short, but again, how things have changed for the customer. In the last week, so context, I live in Ottawa, Canada, Ottawa being Canadian version of Washington, D.C. for the U.S. All right. So 50% of the people who live here are government employees. And we have a booming tech industry too. Why is that relevant? Now, last week, I was talking to a friend of mine in the government in the finance area, and they were sharing with me how now they use AI nonstop to create all of their RFPs that they send to market. And they're using AI the exact same way customers we've discussed are using AI. What are the features I need, everything else, and for this very specific, use case and application. And it generates the RFP. And I thought, wow, isn't that crazy? That's, times have changed. And then 2 days later, I'm talking to a local tech vendor. Great guy. And they sell to the government largely. And he was sharing with me about how now they get RFPs and, they sieve and they find all the RFPs and they pull them down and they just use AI to analyze the RFP and build their response. So it's now the battle of AI in the RFP buying process. It's staggering how it's changed.
Daryl, I have to tell you, people think I'm talking like la la land when I say this, but we are at the point where we need to be thinking about how our bots market to bots. And I even am starting to think about how we build referral networks amongst bots.
Mike, you have
past.
Well, we had said we didn't want to get into the agent discussion, and I know we won't. One of at the point where we decide to get into that kind of thing, you start looking at how AI agents work with other agents and then are managed by another agent, and that's where some of this really powerful stuff can happen as you move through things. Just in the time that we've been sitting here, I've done a couple of different pushed a couple of different chats into ChatGPT, specifically around what are some of the prompts that would make me and Catalyst show up in a response? And then what are some of the things I can do to make me and Catalyst show up in those prompts? And so you just got to work through these things. And if you ask those questions, it's amazing the kind of information that will reveal itself. Something that I think is really important for people to remember. A lot of people will talk about customer journey type stuff. But even though there might be handoffs inside the customer environment, the customer actually works through all of those stages, both from initial problem unaware to problem aware to interest in solving the problem to actually making a decision to solve the problem to now implementing this thing to solve the problem to really excited about solving the problem and telling other people about it. And they go through that journey all the way. And Renee and team have talked about this connection between sales and marketing, how it's becoming tighter and tighter. Well, that same thing happens on the success side. Sales, marketing, and success all being tighter. And you start thinking about the different roles that people in those areas can play. One of the things that marketing does really, really well that I don't do well is communicate one-to-many. One-to-one, I'm pretty good at it. Meaning I look at nonverbal, I can see people nod heads, I can ask questions, I can see how people are leaning in or disconnecting. And that's really cool because I can take that feedback and iterate. I've never figured out how to do that at mass in a one-to-many environment. And we're trying to figure it out now using some of these tools that are available and start to make it a little bit more accessible. But think about one-to-many inside your existing customer environment, and how do things change as you start to nurture conversions that are happening inside that operating environment based on the data that you have. And I think the blending and bridging of gaps here is really, really powerful. I'm super excited to be here on this rock while all of this stuff is going on, even with all the noise that's happening in there. This conversation has been amazing. I think it's just been cool just to sit here and listen and be a part of it. Because Renee, that whole discussion around the buying experience at a dealership level and doing that in real time was, I'm not going to curse and swear, it was absolutely amazing.
I have to tell you, I surprised myself with it. Like, if I just opened myself up to the possibilities, I surprised myself because I never thought, if you'd have asked me a year ago, I'd have said, I'll do that for a 3-figure thing. I'll trust AI with a 3-figure decision, right? Help me choose a suitcase. Help me book a hotel room. Help me find and research. Like, I would have given the risk level, right? A 3-figure decision. But I mean, if I tell you about a Honda Pilot, you know about how much I spent on it. That is a high financial decision. That is more than many B2B buyers are going to spend in a sales conversation, right? That's a high risk environment. And I turned over a lot more trust. And consumers tend to be stingier with their own money in those decisions and lower risk than with the companies. So imagine how much in a B2B environment that could move forward.
I'm just happy I did the shopping for a spouse thing well before this all happened, because I can't imagine what the AIs against AIs are doing at the bars.
Okay, we need to wrap this conversation up. We have had a great time talking about AI and how as consumers we can use it, and how as salespeople we need to understand it, and as leaders we need to understand it. I want to wrap up this episode of your Sales SOS podcast, and I just want to say, hey, you guys, I'll have my bot call your bot, and we'll get it done. And in the meantime, we're going to spend a few more minutes in our next episode. We are going to talk a little bit about noise. So have a great day, everybody, and happy Sally.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Sales SOS podcast. A huge thank you to our experts for throwing us a lifeline with their insights. We hope that episode has equipped you to navigate sales leadership with confidence. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to your Sales SOS podcast on your favorite platform. If you have questions, comments, or topics you'd like us to explore, join us live on LinkedIn every second Friday, or share your questions on LinkedIn or YouTube. Until next time, keep sailing toward your sales goal.